Good afternoon and welcome to Promote, Profit, Publish, where we learn how to turn a profit and launch our products and services as experts. And if you're writing a book, how to do that and turn that profit before you ever release that book. My name is Juliet Clark and I'm your host this afternoon. I am so excited about today's guest, but before I introduce him, I want to invite you to go over and take our Promote, Profit, Publish quiz. Find out if you have all the pieces in place to be able to successfully launch your products and services. So my guest today is Mike Michalowicz, and I'm so excited about this. I've actually waited a couple months. He booked a couple months ago for this interview, and I so appreciate him doing it. At the beginning of 2019, my coach and I read his book, Profit First, and we decided to engage in his strategy this year, and we both had amazing results. I will probably share with him on this episode that I actually went from sort of a scarcity mindset with my money and my books, doing my accounting in the traditional way, to now my debt is being paid off and I feel like I have extra money all the time. Imagine that. So a little about Mike. Mike launched 3 multi-million-dollar companies before his 35th birthday. He was awarded the New Jersey SBA's Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award when he was 26 years old. I don't want to make him older than he is. He sold his first company to private equity and his second one to a Fortune 500 company. He's the author of The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, The Pumpkin Plan, and Profit First. And he's a former small business columnist for the Wall Street Journal. Mike's books have been translated in over 10 different languages, and he's currently an active partner in multiple companies, including an American manufacturer, a business growth consultancy, an augmented reality tech firm, and certification organization for accountants, bookkeepers, and business coaches. So stand by. So welcome back. I've got Mike all of a sudden I can't say it.
Michalowicz.
Michalowicz. I was going to say Malevsky.
Malevsky, yeah.
Where'd I go? I can't spell either of them, so it's okay.
Michalowicz, yeah.
There you go. Thank you, Mike. I'm back with Mike Michalowicz, and I'm really excited. I'm going to have you talk a little bit about yourself, because I love when I listen to your audiobooks, how humorous you are.
Nice, Juliet. Yeah. So, an author, obviously, and an entrepreneur first and foremost, been an entrepreneur my entire life. But I think the interesting thing about my story, I've had the blessing of building and selling 2 multi-million-dollar companies. I run my third. I don't think that's the blessing. I'm very blessed because those moments happened. The blessing actually is in the struggle. Those businesses, I never ran effectively when I was running them. I was just very fortunate that they were acquired. I also, after losing or selling those 2 first companies, I started a third company, which I conveniently leave off my resume, that was a total disaster. I was an angel investor and had no right to be in that space. I had no clue what I was doing and lost all my wealth. And that triggered me to reinvestigate my life. I actually went through depression and really struggled for a period of my life. But what happened was I realized that sometimes we have dreams. They say, if you had all the money in the world, what would you do? And I told myself, if I had all the money in the world, I'd be an author. I found it was a complimentary question. When I had to restart and I had no money, I said, what do I want my vocation to be? I said, I want to be an author and I'm going to make a living doing this. And it was that combined thing that I determined for myself. That's my calling, self-assigned or assigned elsewhere. But I said, this is what I need to do. And that's when I became an author. And for the last 11 years now, full-time author, writing business books that hopefully make entrepreneurship simple. That's my goal with every book I write.
And that's amazing. And I shared in the intro a little bit about the way you have made what my partner and I are doing really simple too, my coach, through Profit First. So you lost $1 million in 2 years. What was that like? Is that the same company you were just talking about?
That was it. Yeah. As an angel investor, I was putting money into all these different businesses, trying to just pump and dump businesses. And I was blowing the money, but also it was a ton of arrogance and ignorance. Cars, we've got a house out in Hawaii on a small island called Lanai. I got a private home out there for a sabbatical, and just spending money because I expected that my lifestyle would continue to increase. But my lifestyle, meaning my income source, stopped abruptly and dropped with the new business, but my actual spend, that part of the lifestyle, continued. And so that gap where you make no money and you're blowing money, that's the formula for losing money. And I was really, really good at it. And I lost all of my wealth within 2 years. I raced through it. And the funny thing is I saw my savings dwindling, and logically I saw it going away. Emotionally, I never accepted it. I thought that one big investor would come, that one big moment would happen, something would turn this, that I'd finally get it right. And when I finally faced that I had failed, was I able to turn things around? When I finally lost everything, I call it the financial heart attack. That's when I realized I had to figure out something new. So now I'm actually grateful for that period of my life, even though it was the darkest. Hopefully it'll be the darkest ever, but it was the darkest period of my life up to that point. And I'm now grateful for it.
That is very interesting, because I think that cycle you're speaking of is what a lot of entrepreneurs get into. It's going to keep going up. I'm growing. And they don't anticipate what's going to happen in a downturn, or, if things go bad. That's a really great lesson for everybody listening. Why do you think entrepreneurs struggle to make a profit?
Well, because I think there's a foundational problem with the formula we use, even the vernacular. So the traditional formula for profit says sales minus expenses equals profit. That's the formula. You have to have sales. You incur expenses running your business. What's left over is profit. So it makes logical sense. Mm-hmm. Here's the problem. It's human nature. When something comes last, it means it's insignificant. We call it the manana syndrome, right? I can wait. Profit is, and by the way, it's not only in that formula, the vernacular we use. We say profit's the bottom line or the year end. All those terms say it can wait. It can wait. It comes last. It's the bottom. So the problem, I think, is not with us as much as what we've been taught. And what I propose, the solution is, I wrote a book, Profit First, on the concept. Take your profit first. And here, it's really the pay yourself first principle applied to business. It's sales minus profit equals expenses. And in execution, every time we have a sale in our business, take a predetermined percentage, 5 or 10 or 15%, hide that money away. That's our profit, our cash profit. And then your business will tell you what it truly has to operate. And that little shift, we have over 150,000 businesses. We think we're approaching 200,000 businesses now doing profit first. This little shift of taking profit first ensures profitability, and it ensures you operate the business off what's truly available to operate the business, not maxing out your spend.
That is such a great point. And that he's actually talking about the Profit First book that's right behind him.
Right. Strategic marketing.
Right. Yeah. Can I share with them the experience that we had doing?
I would love to hear it.
Yeah. So I wasn't writing myself a paycheck. I was doing exactly what you were talking about. At the beginning of the year, the first one was really, really hard.
Yeah.
I just went back and forth, like, how am I going to do this? And then as I moved throughout the year, by about March, I realized all of a sudden that I was kind of out of my scarcity thinking. Like every time I put the money into the buckets, more did come in.
Yeah.
And it was something I hadn't anticipated. I'd always worried, where am I going to put this? How am I going to shift? So it was really amazing how freeing that became from the scarcity mindset that I think I was really, really working from with that I'll pay myself last piece.
Yeah. There's a term for that. You're a human. That's called human. And that's how we operate. It's funny. I do a presentation on Profit First at least once a week now. I'm traveling all over the world, keynoting on Profit First and my other books too. And I'll ask the audience when I do the Profit First presentation, who has employees, and many people in the audience will raise their hand. They have an employee or two, or sometimes hundreds. And I'll say, hey, just real quick, name their best employee? And they never name themselves. They always name someone else. And I'm like, aren't you the best employee? And they're like, well, my ego won't let me say it. Maybe. And I'm like, well, how do you treat yourself? And they don't pay themselves. The funny thing is, the best employee, doing air quotes around that, the best employee that they name, if that employee, they would never let that employee go without a paycheck. And if that employee says, I need to take vacation, even though I've used up my time, but my family's getting together, I need a paid vacation, can I get it? We'll do things like that. We'll do extraordinary things to cover them because we consider them the best. Mm-hmm. If we don't pay ourselves a consistent salary, it's just a matter of time before we start to resent our own business. And that's what I did. My first business, I didn't take a salary, anything consistent, for years. And I hated the business. I hated that I had to refinance my house to pay all my employees, but wasn't paying myself. I loathed it. Second business was the same way. So in the profit first system, we not just take profit, which is different than pay. We make sure that there's profit, reward for being a shareholder, but we also allocate a salary to the best employee ever, which is the owner or owners, to ensure that they are being paid consistently. That's critical.
It really, really is. So tell us a little bit about the Frankenstein formula.
Frankenstein formula. Yeah. So that's the formula we alluded to earlier. GAAP stands for Generally Accepted Accounting Principles. The foundational formula for GAAP accounting is that sales minus expenses equals profit. I've called it the Frankenstein formula because it creates a monster. I think that's the reality of many businesses is we bring something to life, we reanimate flesh like Frankenstein, and there's this great success. But then we realize that this monster we created now starts chasing us and sucking our soul. So we bring this business to life and then it sucks our soul away, which is the Frankenstein story. And so the root of it is this formula. It becomes a cash-sucking monster. Every time sales increases, because the formula says sales minus expenses equals profit, every time sales increases, it's human nature now to spend all that money's come in, and our expenses grow almost uncannily at the same rate of our sales. It's only when we start taking our profit first, as we already talked about, we put this gap in there and we start controlling our expenses appropriately because we've assured profitability. That's how you control this cash-eating monster and make it into a money-making machine.
Yes, that's great. So what are the 4 fundamental lessons you've learned from health and fitness experts?
Yeah. So that's funny. So this is what I share in my keynote. I share it in the Profit First book. So there's 4 principles in fitness that translate, interestingly, to not just physical fitness, but to fiscal fitness. And here they are real quickly. The fitness instructor I was watching said, don't change yourself. It's very hard to do an extreme exercise regimen like P90X or something. She said, change the system around you to capture what you want. One principle she shared is the concept of small plates. If you reduce the size of the plate you're eating off of, it's automatic forced portion control. You can only fill up so much on a plate. Well, plates in the last 300 years have doubled in size of what they were before. So as plates have doubled in size, it's increased our portions. And as a society, our waistline's doubled in size. What we need to do with finances is instead of having one big plate, most business owners have a single bank account. All their deposits go in there, all their checks go out, but maybe they have 1 or 2. Set up multiple small plates with its pre-intended purpose. So now when money flows in the business, we treat the depository account, I call it the income account, as a serving tray. We then carve that money up onto these small plates. One's for profit, we talked about. One's for paying the owner, we talked about it. One's to pay for taxes. We started a business for financial freedom. Business can pay our taxes for that. One's for the operating expenses to operate the business. Now you're carving the money up to these different plates based upon percentages, and now you are forced to consume less. It's portion control. So that's step 1. Step 2, she shared, was the concept of doing things in sequence. Eat your vegetables first when it comes to food. In business, in our finances, what we need to do, this is all done in your bank account, by the way. You do this at your bank. You have these multiple accounts. Is when money flows into your business now, we always allocate that inbound income first to profit. That's the vegetable equivalent. When you do this, there's an endorphin release. So you literally transfer the money at your bank from your income account to the profit account. It's like, yeah, I have a little profit and you feel great. Then we allocate a portion of the money to owner's pay. It's like, yeah, I'm getting paid. Endorphin releases. This is how you start building the profit muscle. Then we allocate money toward taxes to pay your taxes. I consider that a protection mechanism. It's required by law we do this. So it's reward, protect. And the last account is the operating expenses, and that serves the business. So this sequence of reward, protect, and serve is a great way to build that profit muscle. That's the second principle. Third, just going through this very quickly, is to remove temptation. I love chocolate chip cookies. This fitness instructor said, if you put a chocolate chip cookie in front of you, you'll try to use willpower to prevent eating it, and willpower always fatigues. It's near impossible. So the only way to prevent consumption is to remove its accessibility in the first place. So that's what we need to do. But with money, if we move this profit to our bank, the temptation will kick in. It's like, I need to use that money to pay some bills. And then we unwind this whole system. So we need to set up another bank account where we hide the profit from ourselves. A depository only account, one without online banking or starter checks or an ATM card. Hide your money away, and you will find a way to survive off of what you need to survive off of. And that profit accumulates down the road, you'll take out portions of that. And that's actually the fourth and final step, is that we need to go into a rhythm of allocating money. In the fitness field, They suggest 5 meals a day, 5 small meals a day. It's automatic portion control, and you won't overeat because you're not in a starving or hungry state. By continually eating small amounts, you actually eat less. In our businesses go through these peaks and valleys financially. And when we have a lot of money, we're like, wow, business is crushing it. And the next day when all the money's gone, we're like, my business is miserable. And we go through this kind of bipolar experience with cash. So we need to get into a rhythm. And I call it the 10-25 rhythm. Money flows in, and then we allocate it out every 2 weeks on the 10th and 25th. And there's strategic reasons why those days. But we allocate the money out into these different plates. We pay our bills out of the operating expenses. We hide away the profit at the profit hold account, that remove temptation account. We pay ourselves out of the owner's pay. And by doing this on a regular basis, it gets us out of those peaks and valleys. When money comes in, we don't spend it right away. It sits and gets allocated on percentage. When there's no money coming in, we're not panicked because we're in this kind of rhythm. And then also part of the rhythm is every 90 days, that profit that's hidden away, that's when we take our profit distributions. Not all the money, usually 50% of what's accumulated, but we take that money out to reward the shareholder, the person that took the risk to start the business. And that was the 4 principles from the fitness instructor.
And that is so, one of the hardest things there was getting on that 10-25.
Yeah.
It really, really was. Cause I'm always like, it was cool to see things build up. For a change, because I was always pay when I came in.
Totally.
And I always felt like I was broke.
Right. And that's, again, you defined humanity like that. We're very reactive. And when we have money, like finally I can pay those bills, and we tear through a stack of bills, and then we feel bad at the end because like there's no money left for us. By putting this rhythm in place, we start to get perspective. Instead of being reactionary and just paying bills as fast as possible and trying to make sales as fast as possible, now we get this discipline of observing because there's a time buffer in between. And we become much more prudent in our use of cash flow.
So I want to ask you this, just based on that. Do the people that work with you, do they find the first month or two kind of scary, changing this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have over 150,000 businesses do it. We think we're approaching 200,000 companies doing this. And what we've observed consistently, we've documented case study after documented case study. What we've observed is the transition in the beginning is scary. And when a business tries to go full bore, and we've, in less than a half hour now, we've already tore through the process. If a business goes in and tries to do this entire process, typically it's too abrupt of a shift. It overwhelms them. And then they say the system's not working and they abandon it. And it's a shame. And they go back to the old way, which wasn't working either. We found the best way to get past that initial fear is to take very small steps. And what we suggest actually is not setting up all these accounts day one, just set up one new account called a profit account. Now as money flows in, take a percentage of that money, usually a small amount. We even encourage people to start with 1% because it's inconsequential. $10,000 of deposits come in this week, say 1% of that is $100. And if you can run your business off 10 grand, you can probably run your business off of 9,900. That 100 though, we have now allocated to a profit, and you'll see it sitting there. And over time, you keep this 1% going, that profit starts growing. That's when people start getting this muscle. We call it the profit muscle. They say, what if I make that 2% or 3%? And they start building a system. And they say, what if I introduce these other accounts? And I think most businesses out of these case studies we've done, they take 6 months to a year, sometimes even 2 years to do the full rollout of Profit First, but they're wildly successful because they started with the smallest step necessary and they've built up this muscle and this discipline.
Right. I could feel the resistance. That's why I asked that.
Totally normal.
A lot of resistance.
Listen, and I'm the guy who created this. I've been doing this. I've taken now, I think 43 consecutive quarters of profit distributions. But and so I go back now 11 years I've been doing this. The first starting this, I'm like, this is not going to work for me. This is dumb. And I started to cheat the system and it fell apart. Once I started slowly for myself, like my first profit distribution was $8. It wasn't like, big money. But when I took out $8 in cash in the bank and drove over to the Starbucks, I got the nicest cup of coffee I've ever had in my life on $8. It was a celebration because I didn't need to run up debt for this. I wasn't borrowing from the company. The company was rewarding me. And I started to build that muscle. So it's start slow, let it grow over time.
That's awesome. It's really awesome. So explain what TAPs are.
TAPS stands for Target Allocation Percentages. My company conducted research, interviewed about 1,000 businesses, all industry agnostic. They, like pizza shops to lawyers to accounting firms to manufacturers. And we found is in different revenue ranges, these businesses, the fiscally elite ones, were achieving certain percentages of profit and so forth. So in the Profit First book, we document what revenue range you fall in and what the fiscally elite do. I suggest making this the TAP, the target allocation percentage. Now, the thing is, when you start doing the system, you don't start at the target. That's what we're targeting. We use what's called CAPS, and CAPS stands for current allocation percentages. Start slow and let it grow. But now you have something to target and yourself become part of the fiscally elite in your industry.
That's really great. So is that the starting, or it sounds like that's the end game?
CAPS is the end game, not the starting point. So, a business may be achieving 20% of their top line going toward profit. And maybe you look at your business and historically you've had no profit, which is most businesses don't take a quarterly profit distribution. So that's the norm. Well, you had 0%, and to all of a sudden go to 20% profit, every dollar that comes in, 20% is going toward profit. That could be too abrupt of a change. So that 20% is the TAPS, the target. Today, we're going to start instead of 0, where you were, maybe at 1%. And then that 1 will turn to 2 and 3. And maybe the 20% will take us 2 or 3 years to get there, but we know at least what we're targeting to get to.
Oh, that's really great. So what should business owners be looking at and doing every single quarter with this?
Well, every single quarter, profit distributions. The funny thing is, the end of most quarters, it's tax time, and people are like, "Oh, it's the worst time," or they,
right.
or more often they even just ignore their financials and say, "I'll wait till the year end and see if I had profit." What we need is a regular reward mechanism to build our muscle, our profit muscle. So at the end of every quarter, the profit that's accumulated in that holding account hidden away from us, we take out 50% of it. That's the rule. You can tweak this, but the golden rule is 50%. So if there's $1,000 in there today, I take out half of that, so $500, and I take a profit distribution. The rule with a profit distribution is it's used as a reward. So it goes to the shareholder. This is not to be pushed back into the business or reinvested. Actually, I can't stand those terms. Those terms are just glorified terms of saying it's an expense. No, the profit is for the reward for the shareholder. So you celebrate with it, however you define that. Maybe pay off personal debt or put into your future savings or go out for an incredible dinner on $500, whatever. That's what that's used for. And then the next 90 days, more money will accumulate. We take out that 50% of profit again. Now, if you had $500 taken out and you left 50% there, $500 there, and the next quarter, say you add another $1,000, the same as the prior quarter, well, now it's $1,500. So coming out now is $750 and staying $750. So it starts to accumulate the profits by taking out 50%. And it's just a mathematical phenomenon. There's a certain point it starts leveling out, but it starts building that muscle and that momentum. So every quarter do that. And then if you have a quarterly tax liability, that's also when you pay your taxes.
Oh, that's great.
But I'll tell you, it's always good to start off by taking a profit before you have to pay your taxes. That's a fun day. Every quarter is a fun day for me.
Yeah, it actually is. And I loved when I took a paycheck, my taxes automatically went in that other account. Because I was one of those people who always stressed at the end of the quarter.
Sure.
And did that. Oh my gosh.
Me
well,
too.
I'll just wait till the end of the year.
I can't tell you how many emails I get. So the quarter, as of us recording this, the quarter ended 24 days ago, the most recent quarter. Uh-huh. I get emails every quarter, and they'll come right into my email box of people saying, I'm so excited to be paying my taxes. I can't believe I'm high-fiving and celebrating with my team here because we're paying taxes. And the reason they're doing this is because the business has reserved the tax liability on the behalf of the owner. Usually we pay out of our own pocket. Tax time comes, we're like, how much do I owe? And we experience what's called loss aversion. We had the money and now it's coming out of our own pocket. But since the business reserves it before us, we never see the money. The business just squirrels it away. When tax time comes, it's not our problem. The business takes care of it. And that's why we start celebrating and don't go through that loss aversion.
Yes, exactly. So when Tracy Hazard and I went through your book and did the program on our own, it was extremely difficult. Do you actually work with business owners who don't have luckily I had a great accountability partner, but.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, you're right. It's funny. It's a simple system, but it's not easy to do. Like it is difficult and you have to learn and you got to hold yourself accountable. So we started an organization. The day I wrote the book, I shared the manuscript with some pre-readers and the feedback was, this is amazing. Who's the accountant or bookkeeper that supports us, or a business coach? Mm-hmm. So we started a organization called Profit First Professionals, and you can just Google it to check it out, but Profit First Professionals. And what we do is we certify accountants, bookkeepers, and coaches in this process. They go through advanced high-end training on not just the practical applications of Profit First, but also the psychology around it. And then they work with business owners in driving profitability. So if anyone listening in is interested in learning about a Profit First professional, maybe becoming one, Go to Profit First Professionals. We'll gladly introduce you to a certified Profit First professional. And if you're an accountant, bookkeeper, or coach, and you want to get certified in this process, it's a great way to be of service to the community and introduce a new, highly profitable service offering.
And I want to mention that's a great way to go, because when I mentioned this to my accountant, there was like, that's not how you do this. There was a lot of resistance.
Yeah. So that's the best part. So traditional accounting, and I'm not holding this against them or it's a grudge. Traditional accounting says, no, profit comes last. So this is confusing for people that have been traditionally schooled. The vast, vast majority of accountants and bookkeepers follow the old mentality. Now, the funny thing is, if you interview them and say, tell me about your clients, how many of them take a quarterly profit distribution? How many of them are profitable? The vast majority are surviving check by check. That's just the reality. There is a faction, and it's growing rapidly now, of accountants, bookkeepers, and coaches who understand this new concept. It doesn't change accounting. That's the interesting thing. It just changes the psychology of cash management. And that's what the Profit First system is. It's a cash management tool. And these accountants and bookkeepers and coaches that are embracing it, they are lapping up business because entrepreneurs need this. And they are among the few elite, these accountants, bookkeepers, and coaches are among the few elite who get it, understand it, and now are running circles around the accountants and bookkeepers that resist it.
Mm-hmm. No, it is really, really amazing. So you have all those books behind you.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of newer entrepreneurs that listen to our show.
Mm-hmm.
What would be the prescribed order you would tell them to read those in?
Great question. Usually I would say start with, I'd say like Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, which is for startup businesses, or The Pumpkin Plan, which is growth strategy. I now withhold a suggestion. I actually suggest that everyone listening right now ask themselves a question. What is the biggest challenge you're facing right now in your business? Where is your roadblock in your business? Because once you know that, saying you're having problems with sales or growth, then I could say, yeah, the pumpkin plan's it. Or maybe problems with efficiency. Maybe it's clockwork. Maybe it's hiring challenges. I actually have not written a book yet on hiring practices. So maybe you want to look at Who by Jeff Smart or something like that. But you want to seek out the books that solve your challenges. So real quick, the Pumpkin Plan is about organic, healthy growth. Clockwork is about business efficiency. Profit First is a system we talked about today, profitability. Surge right there is about catching market momentum. How do you become the industry authority? And Toilet Paper Entrepreneur is about being a startup and leveraging the fact that you have a lack of resources. Lack of resources actually can facilitate the best growth, and it's ideal for a startup business.
Oh, thank you. That was amazing. What's your next one? Have you written it yet?
I have turned in the manuscript 2 days ago. And believe it or not, it will not come out until April 2020, but that's how big publishing works. Mm-hmm. Manuscript in. It's called Fix This Next. And my thesis is this. The biggest challenge that entrepreneurs face is actually they don't know what their biggest challenge is. How do you pinpoint what you need to fix next? And so in Fix This Next, I developed a compass, if you will, for honing in on your biggest challenge. It's a very simple system. It's based upon Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I translated it into an entrepreneurial hierarchy of needs, and you go through a simple sequence of questioning and you'll pinpoint your challenge. And that's the thing you need to fix next to really open up your business and throttle forward.
Oh, that is so cool. Too bad. So not until next year.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. And, I will be speaking about it probably starting in about 2 months. I'll start keynoting about it. So if you want an early peek, do that. And you can pre-order it. It's on Amazon now. Just type in Fix This Next and you'll find it on Amazon.
That's great. You have an event coming up, don't you?
Yeah, I do my own event. Thank you for asking. It's called Profit Con. We think it's the only conference dedicated specifically to profit. It is specific to accountants, bookkeepers, and coaches. We're trying to help people make this transition. So it's every September. I think this year, September 27th, 28th, and 29th in New Jersey, 2 event days. And we wrap up the last day with a big celebration and picnic. But if you type in Profit Con, you will find it there. You'll find it in Google. Click on it, and we'd love to have you at the event.
Get tickets. What kind of coaches would you recommend that for?
It's ideal for business coaches, wealth management coaches, financial coaches. It's not, if you're a life coach, probably not a good fit. If you're a marketing coach, maybe. Okay. If you're a traditional business coach, absolutely. Financial coaches too.
Okay, very good. And where can we find more of you?
Thank you for asking that. So my website is MikeMichalowicz.com. I do have a little trick because Michalowicz is near impossible to spell. I'm actually shocked that my wife took the name. I'm shocked she took it on. She went from a very simple name. But there's a shortcut. It's MikeMotorbike.com. My nickname in high school was Mike Motorbike. Ironies, I've never driven a motorcycle. Don't plan to. But Mike Motorbike, if you go there, it brings you to my website. And what you'll find are free chapter downloads from all my books, free resources. I'm also a blogger, podcaster. I used to write for the Wall Street Journal for years. Those articles, all that stuff is up there for free right now at MikeMotorbike.com.
Very good. Thank you. I don't get the Mike Motorbike thing, but it is.
It's a nickname. It's a nickname. It's a nickname. And so, how everyone knows how to spell Mike Motorbike, but that's how you get there, because Michalowicz is a doozy.
I'm envisioning the Geico commercial right now where you're like half man, half motorcycle.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for being on today. This was fantastic, and I appreciate it. And it was such an honor to meet you.
It's been my privilege. Thanks for having me, Juliet.